that. But
Hamza has entered the meeting room. Why is Hamza here? I mean, I told him.
who's that? Sorry,
Hamza from Other Store. Let me just check my schedule because I'm sure he's on at. Oh yeah, 3:30. He's a bit early though. Still, I'll tell him 3:45, 3:50. Right. I'm gonna. So we're live now. So there's one person watching us. I'm gonna hand it over to Matt Keane from Questioning Sense. I keep forgetting. There's another one, isn't there? There's the Scientology Questioning Sense, but there's another one with something sense, and I'm just getting confused between all of them. So, but yeah, I'm gonna bring him on so that you can talk because he's going to conduct the interview with you. Yeah, not me. He's got some very hard to hit questions for you. What's your favourite colour?
Right. I ran out the door then.
Right, so I'm going to hand over. There's 2 people watching. I think there's 4 people watching now, so everyone's coming back on because I haven't mastered the streaming thing, right? So I keep having to do different streams. We'll sort it out for the next time, but for now, people are manually switching. So we've got 5 people on. So just give it a minute or 2 until everyone comes on, and maybe just have some
sure.
Get to know him. So Matt, he, by the way, he did a really good review of your Mashuk and Matt group, others. He was really impressed with them. And you had a question about one of his orders as well, so you can ask him.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hi Matt.
You good?
Yeah, good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So I've got a bright light to shine in your face, so we can crank up.
The thing is, you have to. Fahim was supposed to do this, and last minute he landed me in it, right? So I'm not completely prepared, but obviously I'll answer your questions as best as I can.
That's fine. The whole thing's been recorded, so it can be used against you at a later date. So no worries. Right.
Yeah.
Do you want,
Right, no worries.
Right, how many have we got here? Do you want to kick off? Should we get started?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is now, isn't it? It's 5 or 10 or 15, whatever.
All right, no worries, buddy. So I'd like to start because I understand that Imperial Oud have been around for sort of like 10 years. So if you could tell us a little bit about the beginnings and where you've come from and how you've come together to become Imperial Oud, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So if you look at Oud itself, obviously being of Indian background, you know, agarwood, or what we would call agarbatti. My granddad used to sort of light it up in the house, you know what you call incense sticks now. And from what I remember, his cousin used to have a shop, and he was called Agarbatti Wala, and he used to sell it in the Gujarat region. Many years ago now. So me personally, growing up, we always had agarbattis in the house, and you know, was sort of always intrigued on sort of, you know, like, I used to stare at the smoke. I remember as a child, you know, as it used to rise up, and it was very different to anything that we had. And my granddad used to love rose as well, so we'd always have rose. And whenever we went to like Saudi for pilgrimage or the minor pilgrimage, he'd bring stuff back. And then, you know, sort of, I never really got into artisanal oud sort of until 2009, 2010, something like that. Is it still on? Is it stuck?
Yeah, no, it's still going.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
All right.
How many?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Oh, okay. No, I keep very still normally anyway. So, so that's kind of like the background. So obviously, oud is in your blood, shall we say?
Yeah, the background. And then for him, and then like for him and I, we met because you know, sometimes you'd pick up older oils or, you know, stuff that you couldn't find on eBay and so on. So what did I want? I think it was Agorora or Russian Adams or something like that. And Fahim said, oh, he's got it. And I met him in Bradford in a hotel. And then we just started discussing, you know, about oud and whatnot. And he had a passion for oud as well. So I thought, you know, it's rare to meet somebody, especially back then. You know, it's rare to meet somebody who really liked oud and whatnot and wanted to sort of discover further. So I came up with the idea, like, you know, why don't we set up a company of some sort, and you know, we'll just try and get out there. Initially, we didn't have any big aspirations or anything like that. It was just, let's see what we can get. If we can get oud for ourselves that we enjoy using and whatnot, that's enough. And if we sell a little bit, no problem. And then that kind of snowballed, and then, you know, we started speaking to more and more distillers out there, and we did quite a lot of research.
I noticed that things really changed for you guys.
And then we went out there.
In 2017, things seems to have picked up, you know, or changed quite dramatically for you guys with Udix giving you the title of Vendor of the Year. Did that make much difference to how you saw?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we started. I mean, we started on the Base Notes, you know, forum, the original Base Notes oud forum. And then when that got shut down, Nadeem had the idea of having an oud only forum. So we were one of the first to join because we thought, why not? Let's support somebody like Nadeem. And then that kicked off. And then at that period of time, we were trying to develop further as well. So Abdullah joined around 2016, 2017, and he had a passion for oud, and he'd spent quite a bit of time at home in England distilling sandalwood, and he'd done some small oud distillations, you know, like a few kilos here and there. So it was a perfect sort of opportunity. He joined us, and then we started doing more. I think it was Sri Lanka. We were sort of one of the first ones out there to Sri Lanka, and especially not just to look at wood, which the Arabs and the Chinese were doing anyway. We were sort of looking at oils, you know. So we spent a bit of money there. They had some old kind of equipment that they were using for essential oils for, you know, cinnamon and clove and things like that. So we upgraded their equipment. We bought items from Indonesia and whatnot, got them shipped over, you know, better condensers, better general pipe work, because he used to use a lot of rubber piping and things like that. So we got glass, you know, borosilicate piping and whatnot sent across. And then, you know, we did because we bought quite a lot of equipment, we did a similar thing in India. So when Abdullah went out to India, to Assam, I think that was about 2-3 years ago now, instead of doing the normal sort of Assam stations that a lot of people were used to, he took a lot of the gear over, and he did a distillation where they were very, very surprised, you know, because it's like the water and stuff like that, you know, you use well water, it's fine, you know, you can use it, a lot of people use it, but it's not filtered, nothing like that. So he went, and, you know, there's still some videos on YouTube, you can see that he went especially to like markets and things and to find filtered water. And, you know, we use that. So he was out there for a good couple of months, and he spent a lot of time distilling various oils and whatnot. You know, even now we've still got some of his stuff that we're selling. I think that Assam Usli, it might not be on the website yet, but that, you know, that especially for Hindi oils, for us anyway, that was just a proper sort of like a paradigm shift, if you want to call it. You know, we went from good smelling Hindis to something that smelled absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, you know, even the guys there, they were saying, what are you doing distilling this wood?
Yeah.
You could sell this, go to Dubai or whatever, you sell it for 1,500 a kilo or something like that. And we're like, no, we want to distill it, you know. So it was amazing, and we got a hold of a lot of wild wood and even sinking Hindi wood that we've sold out now. But, you know, that, of course. And then with Udict at the same time, you know, we had a good audience and market, and people were sort of seeing us for what we could do.
Yeah. So how are you? I mean, obviously, with the wood, you know, selling wood as chips itself, how are you finding availability of good wood to sell? Is it something that's easy? You know, we understand that obviously it's becoming more and more scarce. So how does that affect your sort of
it
supply?
is. It's difficult. It's difficult now because, like, if I look at the business now, and if I look at how to go forward, it's going to have to be very well sort of kept reserves that you're going to tap into, and then you know, it's plantation. It's mainly plantation now. You might get hold of some wild from some kind of collector or something like that, but you know, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. You know, to get hold of stuff like that. I mean, we still sell stuff which was distilled by other people. You know, we make no qualms about that. We're not here to try and sort of badmouth anybody else or whatever. You know, we work with distillers, and we also buy from, you know, collectors or distillers, and we do our own stuff. You know, so if you smell a lot of our oils, you'll find sort of similar signatures. You know, where you might sort of pick up the not notes as such, but you might pick up like a quality of the oil.
Yeah.
So, you know, like where, and I know other sort of vendors do it as well, where they're very specific on temperatures, soaking of what they want their wood to be soaked at. You know, how you ramp up. You know, when you start distilling, what temperature you start at, how you ramp it up, how you ramp it back down. So if you use that on a similar, on a different set of it, let's say Indonesian, or you use it on Cambodia, or you use it on Malay or whatever, but if you're using similar kind of ideas, then you kind of form a signature of your scent, you know, as your house. But then again, you know, some of the best stuff that we sold, we didn't produce it, like Natrang Ultima. That's from a collaboration, you know. So
So I've just lost my screen a sec. Let's try and get the details.
all right, yeah.
No, half my screen has disappeared, but if you just carry on for us, please, buddy. Nadeem.
Yeah.
Nadeem. I'm sorry, sorry. I do apologise.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So with, you know, with the market as it is, you know, are you looking to sort of, I notice, you know, beard oils and things like that are coming into play.
Yeah.
Is this another way of taking a product to a different market, or, you know, is this going to be something?
Yeah, I think with the beard oils, that was Abdullah's idea, sort of himself. He said you could get beard oils everywhere now, but why don't we make something that's really exceptional? So, you know, like stuff you use like orange butter, and there's so much oud in there. There's sandalwood. It's a really, really high quality beard oil. And it, you know, it smells quite nice, although the smell diminishes quite quickly because you don't want a very, very smelly beard oil.
Yeah.
You know, but that was something we just thought we can add to that. You know, we can bring it to, like I say, like another market and all, and maybe those people might try ouds, you know, going further. But if nothing, at least you know, people can try our sort of quality. You know, so
I think it's a fantastic way of getting oud out to people that, you know, are looking for another way to wear it, because you know, not everybody wants to burn wood, and not everybody wants to swipe oil. I mean, I come from more of a perfume using background, and I think it's a good way of integrating this, you know, a new smell, for want of a better word, into a sort of a more mainstream society in that respect. I'm always fascinated when I speak to people like yourself who are involved in oud, what your thoughts are of oud in perfumery, and does it give oud a bad name, or does it whet the appetite for people to explore oud further?
I'm sure if you ask people who have come into oud, let's say in the last couple of years, they've probably heard of it initially, like Tom Ford or Killian, or, you know, what was the other one, Creed, Royal Oud, or stuff like that. You know, they would have come across that and thought, what is this oud? Tried it, as a spray form, as a branded, whatnot, and then maybe just research what is oud, where does it come from, then come across forums like Oudict or vendors that are known out there, whether on Oudict or not, and they probably bought samples, thought, what is this, what is this thing, because it's not a Western, well, he's getting more and more known in the West, but obviously originally it wasn't. So, I mean, we've considered going into that kind of spray, perfume, oud market, but then we decided against that, because I think first of all, you've got issues with alcohol-based perfumes, like selling them, because you've got to have a lot of legislation approval, and a lot of couriers won't accept it and whatnot. Especially if you sell it as a spray perfume, you need a lot of kind of things behind it. And secondly, it was just something that we weren't that interested in, being brutally honest. We just thought, no, we like oud as it is, and we like natural perfumery as it is. Let's just stick to that. And hopefully people will come round to us sooner or later and try our things and think, okay, these guys are quite good as well, in this particular field.
If obviously, my dream would be that everybody that's kind of in perfume or likes perfume will start to make that transition to explore this magical material more. And obviously, when I've got the opportunity to speak to someone like yourself that has got back, you've come the other way. Your history has been sort of Ugarwood, and then kind of, you have more experience with that than you did with perfume. So, you've done it the other way around. And obviously, your strengths and knowledge is from the oud world. What would you, I soon discovered that I really liked a Hindi oud. I love that Barney facet. I like that kind of oud more. But what would you recommend with your experience to people that are watching this that aren't too into oud? Where would you, what way would you suggest to them to start the journey, as it were?
I think the easiest to sort of fathom or to entertain would be the Indonesian stuff, because a lot of the Indonesian oils are vanillic, green, soft greens, sometimes slightly spicy, but they're kind of more palatable, definitely. And then you could try Chinese oils now. Wild Chinese is getting very, very, very hard to get a hold of. Like the material now is just almost gone. You might find it with somebody. So a lot of the Chinese stuff, which is cultivated now, some of it's not bad. You can get good quality cultivated wood and get somebody to distill that, or go over and distill yourself. Chinese is good. It's herby, slightly medicinal. Sweetness in there as well. You get some honey notes and stuff like that. Cambodian, if you get a good Cambodia oil which was distilled well, it's quite nice. You've got some fruits to it. You've got toffees. You've got berry kind of aromas. Very palatable for a Western nose. You're like, wow, this is quite nice. It reminds me of some kind of tart or something. So those I would say are easier. Malay, you can have really floral Malays, but a lot of the Malays you might produce quite a deeper, more intense, like a more robust kind of a coffee almost. So you might take longer to get into that. Even the Hindis, some of the Hindis, especially the ones that we did with Abdullah, like you would be surprised that this was a Hindi. There was zero band to it. Very, very oral honey. Yeah, like Shah Jahan, Bahadur, Alamgir to an extent. If you try those oils, you'll be like, wow, this is something very different, very, very different. Like Shah Jahan especially. I mean, I have very little amount of it myself, like a gram or something, and I use it sparingly, but it's just, it's something unreal. And if
it sounds awesome,
Yeah, yeah, it's very, very unique oil.
I think for me
Um,
personally, I want the Hindi to smell like a traditional Hindi, if you know what I mean. I like
yeah,
that facet that
yeah.
it's a Hindi
The
oud.
thing with that is, yeah, but there was a conversation. I'm sure it was Daha who started it, who started it off, and he was saying, would traditional Hindi oil have smelled barney? Because I mean, the people might be like, "Oh no, it's always smelled barney. It's always smelled barney." But what you got to realize is that when, let's say, when Ajmal and these guys started up, and Abdul Samad Qureshi, who were like the sort of the actual sort of foreigners to commercial oud,
Yeah,
um, they were able to get hold of wood from Assam, good quality wood. I mean, good quality stuff, like sinking grade and whatnot, for very, very, like almost free.
wow.
They were able to get it from Assam, probably not even a dollar, sort of nowhere near a dollar a gram. It'd be way, way cheaper than that. Like you could probably pick up kilos of it for like $15. Back then, obviously in the 70s, 60s, and when they were bringing it over and when they were having it distilled, they wouldn't need to soak it so much, because one of the reasons you would extend your soak is to try and really, really soften the material to try and get as much oil out as you can. Now,
Mhm.
if you don't have that restriction, if it doesn't cost you that much at all to find trees, if there's no rush to get hold of wood, agar wood, why do you need to soak the hell out of it? So you would get really good quality wood, just dash it in some water for a little bit, yeah, it's a bit soft, and throw it into into the pot to distill it. So um, I haven't got hold of any genuinely old oils. I know there's some people that say there's €100, Hindi oud or whatever, but if you could actually get hold of something genuinely from 1920, 30, 40, it would be very interesting to see if it smelled barney or not.
Mm.
Because I don't know why it would. I genuinely don't know why it would. Because you would just take the wood, chip it, soak it for a little bit, yeah, it's soft enough, and throw in. I just don't understand why you would go to this extent of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month of soaking, because it didn't cost anywhere near what it costs now.
Yeah. So, and also the abundance of it then as well. There would be no
Yeah,
pressures on the distill.
you could find really high grade Assamese wood, probably 60s, 70s, 80s. It was only really after that when the Arab market and the big powerhouses in sort of the Arab culture of Abdul Samad Qureshi or Ajmal or Al Haramain, these kind of guys, when they started developing big businesses, and they had demand from not just Saudi Arabia but Dubai and Kuwait and Qatar. They had stores everywhere, store in the airport, duty free. Once you get to that level, you're not able to supply the old quality wood. Before you could probably have done that.
And
So I mean, it's the same. If I look at, let's say, what we did in Sri Lanka when we got in, yeah, there were Chinese guys there and there were Arab guys getting the wood out, but in terms of oil grade wood, the first few oils that we distill in Sri Lanka, that grade of wood now it costs you like, like per kilo you might be looking at 15,000-20,000 pound. It was nowhere near that back then, nowhere near that. So
wow.
the shavings that you were getting and using, yeah, we kept a lot of. I mean, I still got some really nice chunks of sinking Sri Lankan wood, but the shavings of that went into the pots were unbelievable. I mean, whoever bought Adrijaya, the first one from us, or Rajakia, or Ceylon Royal Number One, those were amazing, amazing uh, oils because of the material that went into it. But now to do that, you have to have really deep pockets,
Yeah.
and you have to have customers that are willing to pay for that, which is hard.
So, what would be your favourite? On a personal level, what would be your favourite oils to work with? What would be your favourite type of oil to distill to work with?
I mean, Hindi is still really good. if you can get hold of the material. Hindi's the aroma is just, I don't know. It's hard to describe the honeyed, fruity kind of sweetness that you get out of Hindi oil. That's why Hindi is so revered, because sometimes people are like, oh, I don't mind the ban, because once the ban goes, the sweetness will come out afterwards, and they really enjoy that, you know, peachy kind of toffee sort of aromas. But personally, I mean, Sri Lankan, unbelievable. You know, the oceanic, vanillic, slightly hint of jungly mango kind of aroma. It's just fantastic. You know, really, really nice. Vietnam. I mean, we've not touched on Vietnam, but you know, Vietnam is sort of the original Kiara, Kinam, or whatever you want to call it. You know, those Vietnamese, Cambodia, you know, kind of related Sinensis, Krasna species. You know, again, fantastic stuff. I don't mind the Indonesian, and sometimes you can get a very nice quality Indonesians. You can get very nice quality, like Borneo's. The Malina oils are amazing, you know. But if I was to go to just one sort of thing, probably Hindi or maybe Sri Lankan, then sort of the Viet and Cambodia stuff.
I tried. You're going to have to forgive my pronunciation here because I'm going to butcher it.
Sure.
But the Al Mashriq and Al Maghrib earlier,
yeah,
and absolutely amazing, really, really good. Can you tell us a bit about the background of those?
I would see. This is why I wanted Fahim to be here, because Fahim is the one that made both of them.
Right.
Those are so they're both oils or attars, as you want to call it. They're not. They're not attars in the true sense of the word, because I think attar in the true sense of the word means you distill all the ingredients together. So this wasn't an attar; it's a mukhallad, which is a mixture. But right nowadays, we kind of intertwine the two terms, attar and mukhallad. But attar really is where you take agar wood, rose, sandalwood, clove, cinnamon maybe, or you know, whatever, the variety of flowers or whatnot, chuck them into a pot, and then you distill them together, and you have a distilled oil at the end, which is a blend of all these essential oils. That's an attar. And mukhalla, which is what al-Mashriq and Maghrib are where you take essential oils and then put them together, layering them to form a base, and then, you know, the way we've done them, we've kind of made a base first, which is more the sort of the traditional way of, even I think if you look at French perfumery, where and this I got to know a lot more about with Marius, who joined us for a little while, where he would make, and then this is what we sort of did with Mashriq and Maghrib, where you make a base and leave it, you make a middle and you leave it, and you make a top and you leave it, and then you combine the base and the middle, leave them for a while, combine the top afterwards, and then you get a genuine oil where once you've applied, you get a beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, proper top, middle, and base note. So Fahim did that with Mashriq and Maghrib. I think from what I remember, like Mashriq is more sort of western, eastern based. So there's more oud into it. There's more florals. There's more camphor, I think, and is use those kind of elements. And then with the Maghrib, which is the western part, is use more florals to make it more western palatable, as it were. So yeah, I mean, those two, he did a very, very good job with them.
Absolutely amazing. Really, really impressive stuff. I think I'm going to have to wrap this up. People are waiting. I think we're running out of time. So I just really wanted to say thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute journey, a real pleasure for me to hear about this. And I hope everybody else has enjoyed it. But thank you so much, buddy. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy. Nice one. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
God. All right, guys, we are going to stay. We're going to stay on this channel because we've got Hamza coming on very, very soon. Matt, do you have time, Hamza? Or
yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. You sure? Okay. So I'm just waiting for Hamza to join us. Just give him a call, actually. Just give me a second. So we've got Hamza from the Attar store coming up next. That was a very interesting and informative discussion between Matt and Faisal just there. I think even I learned a few things in the discussion. These interviews are being recorded, I think. I'll find out tonight if I've got all the files. But as far as I know, they've been recorded. So we'll be putting them up as individual videos on the channel. So we're just waiting to get Hamza on here. And there he is, right. Hamza, I think you've got your mute. There you go, that's better, I think. Is your mute still on? Yeah, that's better.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to put you, so you're live at the moment. We've got 20 people online watching. One just dropped out. Obviously,
Okay.
doesn't hear from you. Or maybe he's had enough of Matt. I don't know which one it is.
One of them, Malik.
We're just lost one person, so maybe he's had enough of Matt. I don't know. or Hamza's coming on and he doesn't see his face at one of those two things. Is your camera on, by the way, or are you going to be just audio only?
Is my camera not on?
I think
check.
you've got the cover on or something.
No, I actually just took it off there. I've checked.
I mean, you don't have to have the camera if you don't want it. We're not here to make people feel uncomfortable. If you feel like you want to. Okay, this is the first. This is the first time I've seen you. I've not seen you before. Now we've got a face to the name. Quick
we do.
Screenshot. You're on video now. You do know this is going out. This is going to be going out for posterity. So we're going to actually have this whole session recorded and put on our channel. and I'll leave you to think about that while I introduce Matt to interview for.
Let me just stick this on charge because I don't want it dying.
Hey, buddy, how you going?
Hi, how are you, Matt?
Yeah, very good, thank you. All good. Hope you've enjoyed everything so far.
Yeah, it's been okay. I've been following it. I was in the gym earlier, so I was watching from there as well. So keeping
I feel exhausted just hearing that, to be honest with you, mate. The gym, crikey. So basically, I'd like to try and find out a little bit more about the Attar store for everybody.
Okay.
So if you could just give us a little bit of a background and let us know how you came to be.
So I mean, I've always been around since I was 8 or 9 years old. So I've always been around attars and Western perfumes as well. One of the sort of main difficulties in Scotland was really getting a hold of oud and attar, sort of in bulk. The higher quality kind of things. So it was quite easier to get into the Western scene. With the big brands likes of Creed, Dior, Chanel, Penhaligon's, and obviously the niche houses as well. But there's nothing much for the Eastern market, especially in the UK, apart from maybe Arabian oud. So I decided to, once I came across oud, I was already doing my own thing. So I decided to do something similar, something with a bit of artisanal touch, not mass-produced bulk oils. So I got in touch with the correct people when I set off on that path to try and do my own thing. So part of that is incense, getting incense sticks manufactured and introducing people into burning wood, because it's a tradition that's mostly died out. It's not something, even in the sort of Indo-subcontinent families, it's a tradition that's sort of died off. Now people are more into their candles, they're not really into incense. So it's trying to sort of push people back onto that traditional path. And of course, you've got people from Arabic backgrounds that are doing something similar there. And with myself being obviously Pakistani, I'm trying to push that to my own people, push them towards, okay, this is oud, but there's something a bit higher, there's top-notch stuff that is available as well, because we're seeing a lot of people move towards Western perfumes, and while they can be great, it's sometimes you can still pull off the same goals and objectives with Eastern perfumery. You can still wear that kind of thing to work, you can wear that to events, you can still wear it as a crowd pleaser. So I think one thing I've been trying to do is really expand on that and really try to push pure oud out there to convince people that it's worth them parting with their money. If they can spend 3 figures, 4 figures on Western perfumes, they can do the same with this. And it's something that has that signature twist. It's not mass produced, it's something that's small batch, small quantity.
Well, having tried some of your work earlier today, I must say straight away and straight off the bat, it's really impressive stuff. So what I'd like to do at just briefly go through some of the oils and get your take on them. There's one that really sort of jumped out at me, which is the Cambodia Cola. So if you want to tell us a bit more about this little beauty.
The Cambodia one. So the Cambodia it's a 2019 distillation from a copper pot. It's made from vintage dust. I don't know how old the dust is. It's wild. And recently I was offered by somebody based in Singapore, I was offered a batch. So there's a successor coming to it. It's a little bit similar.
Oh, okay.
It was a small batch that was offered, and obviously upon getting it, I noticed it had a sort of cola-like, the caramel color that cola has, something like Pepsi, something like Coke. So that's where the sort of cola came, and there's sort of cola-like notes. There's of course dark fruits, there's berries, this is syrupy, kind of something a bit like molasses, and there's of course some just slightly. I think some of the top notes are like cola. So it is quite a new distillation. It isn't very old, but it has got an aged-like consistency to it. It is quite a thick oil. It's been a hit so far. I think we're almost sold out. I've only got 1 gram left from what was a small batch of it.
Well, I've managed to swipe a bit. So what I'm going to take that with me, and what I'm going to do is obviously give it a full wearing, because I've only had it on skin for a little while today, and I'd like to spend a bit more time with it, because from the opening you could sense that it's going to develop. It's going to take you on more of a journey than I actually unfortunately had time to explore today. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And I thought I went through a few, and the name of that one just leapt out, because it's not a word that COVID's not a word that I would have associated with a traditional oil kind of thing. So I think it was certainly well named. I mean, how many oils do you tend to work on at a time? Is it something that you've always got a couple on the go, or?
So mostly I started off with wood quite a lot. It was quite difficult to get into the oil. So recently I've been focusing on oil. I think I've got about 3 or 4 at the moment. I've got a couple more on the way.
Right.
And I think we're commissioning a distillation within the next week or so as well, made from Sarawak woods. So it's really what comes and goes, what's available. Of course, this is something that's a bit more rarer, so it's just when the opportunity comes, somebody's got vintage stock or somebody's got a vintage oil. With newer oils that are distilled maybe within the past few months, you can get them quite quickly, and a lot of the vendors will know it's quite easy to commission distillations. But if you're looking for a gem or a quality oil, it is a lot more difficult, especially Cambodia. Nowadays, you don't really see much wild Cambodia. Most of it tends to be organic, so this was quite rare. And as I said, we've got the successor coming, which I think I'm going to call Cambodia Tobacco.
All right.
A tobacco-like note to it. So that should be dropping within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully that should be on its way soon.
So obviously, this is a really testing time for any industry with the COVID restrictions and stuff like that. But traditionally, before when travel was easy, did you get out into the field very much, or?
No, I haven't personally been out to the fields. I'm quite a new vendor, so the most sort of the field I've had is really the Indian subcontinent, just seeing what was available there in sort of traditional stores, and of course been out to the Gulf. But I haven't been to East Asia yet. Right. I'm hoping to perhaps visit Taiwan next year, if all goes well with that.
Yeah, it's just I think making any kind of long-term plans at the moment it's almost impossible, isn't it? We don't really know what's going on. So do you think this is going to, just the restrictions we're having, is that going to have a knock-on effect, do you think, in terms of sourcing materials and?
Yeah, it already has, because a lot of the vendors we work with, obviously, for example, some of the distillers in Malaysia and so on, they obviously had local restrictions there, so it's preventing them from travel. it's obviously stopping. You know, I had a batch of wood that I ordered in April and it didn't come till the end of July. So it's really slowing things down locally, and a lot of the traders out there aren't able to, of course, travel. So the ones that we have, traditionally the middlemen, aren't able to go meet the hunters or able to go meet the people that they buy their stock from. So things have slowed down quite a lot. I used to get batches offered, you know, every few days. Now that's maybe once or twice
And
a week, maybe a
that
fortnight.
must be putting more pressure on you to make snap decisions about what you're gonna get.
But purchasing, yeah, with regards to cash flow as well, sometimes it's more difficult to find what you're looking for. So you're finding that it's almost paying a little bit more than what we'd like to pay usually. So things are a little bit more difficult. And we're obviously faced with the decision that sometimes things are selling a lot and you're almost looking like there's no stock left. And then we can obviously have a backlog of stock, which we do at the moment with a lot of woods, so a lot of high quality woods. So, you know, things are a little strange. You can find some things moving faster than others.
And
so it's quite difficult to predict what demand will look like.
With regards, sorry, I'm going to go back to another one of your oils, the Tonga Rose. I was particularly impressed with that as well. The rose note in that is quite delightful. How did this one come about? Was it just an idea you had, or?
So I had some Tongan rose oil. It was quite a high quality oil from my birth year, actually, 1999. I sourced it from Taiwan. So I had some of that left over, and I thought I'm trying to move towards utters. So oud can be quite a strong note. It's not something that's very feminine or something that's easily pulled off by a lot of people. So something and that's one of the lures of Western perfumery or the bigger brands, is that it's very widely accepted, the notes. So I was trying to pull something off similar to that. The Tongan sandalwood is quite neutral. It's quite a bland sandalwood. It doesn't have a very strong aroma. So the rose oil is something roses used universally in everything. So I thought if I can mix that into sandalwood and add some ambergris as a sort of fixative to make it last longer and give it that performance, because we don't see real ambergris used anymore. So I think I'm one of the main ambergris suppliers on the forum, and it's Scottish ambergris as well. So most ambergris used in France is actually they're using synthetics nowadays. Most of the real ambergris is taken by the Arab market. So it's quite rare to actually have ambergris being used in perfumery now. It has died down quite a lot with the invention of the likes of ambroxan, which is obviously a compound that's used synthetically. So it's really just, I think, 3 basic ingredients. So I think it has received some good reviews. So I think I'm going to create a larger batch of it when I can.
I think it's also one that, a lot of oils, it's a difficult one to generalize, but it seemed to me to be quite a feminine leaning oil, which I think it's nice to see. It certainly gives you as a vendor more options, because it's certainly one that, for example, my wife would adore, and she's not very keen on sort of oils in general, to be honest. And in my findings, obviously maybe slightly different with some of the more sort of more commonly used attars, but generally speaking, I find that it's more males that I speak to that are interested in this kind of world. So it may, was it a conscious effort to make something that may appeal?
Yeah.
To more
it is definitely, because if you're wanting to work with mainstream influencers, mostly tend to be female, you can't really be giving them stuff that's very strong and very masculine. If they're going to promote this and wear it themselves and promote it to their audience, it needs to be something that they could wear on a day-to-day basis. It's not something that they're just trying and being paid to promote. It's something that they themselves would genuinely recommend and can wear themselves. So, of course, to get that right and to be able to actually make sure it's approved by them. So yeah, it is more leaning towards the feminine side, and that is a conscious decision to try and increase that range.
I think the decision that you made there with this particular oil is a good one, because it works well, and he's certainly if that's the objective that you set out with, you've achieved it. So that must give you a sort of sense of satisfaction for sure.
It does, yeah. Seeing yourself in Nadeem's reviews, because it was just a small batch lying. So the name isn't decided yet, but I was thought maybe we'll see what their thoughts are. It has just been aging away slowly. I've only swiped it once myself. It's just been sitting there for like 3 to 4 months now, mixing about. So I'm waiting on the ambergris to really dissolve within the sandalwood oil. It's still sort of a lump, so hopefully it will start to dissolve more and more. And then I'll commission perhaps a larger batch of it when the time's right.
Have you ever gone into the sort of spray perfume world, or?
It's a line that I'm looking at. I'm trying to garner some investment as well. It is a big investment if you do want to head down that route. It's obviously available, but there's a lot of red tape, a lot of regulation. It's becoming a bit of a trend. We've seen a couple of brands, quite well-known vendors, go down that route. So I think all of the vendors on the forum might be looking at that. I think everybody is attracted to that, but it's one thing to do and then one thing to really market it and push it. It depends what kind of market you're looking at, whether you're looking at our traditional base or you're trying to move into the mainstream market. But it is something that I'm exploring.
I think because the risk is you obviously spend a lot of time and build a nice and a respected reputation for doing this, and whenever you're adding to it, are you looking to is it a diffusion range or are you diluting your base by this diversification? I don't know. It's a difficult one to work out, but it'll be interesting to see how you approach it with going forward.
Definitely. I mean, even with candles, I've tried to approach the subject. I mean, candles are quite widely produced and use the same sort of oils, but to actually find somebody that will be willing to sit down with you and use your own oils is a rarer thing. Same with the scents. You can find a scent library. You can work with these companies that have their own compounds and their own aromas, but they won't take your own stuff. That's a different story altogether. So it's the option if you want to sort of sell out and just use mass-produced materials, but I think that goes against my ethos of using locally or small batch items, because there's a sense of rarity there. Somebody's owning something that there's only, maybe they're one of 10 people, one of 20 people to have that. And when you're weighing something that's mass produced, something that we've seen with some of these Western brands at first, you might be the only person in your friend group to own that, and then suddenly everybody has it. So I think that's the thing I've always been against, is the idea of mass producing things. It's not about the money, it's about quality and the passion and pride that goes into it. Money is just a byproduct of that.
So with the Atlas store, I'm getting a very progressive sense of where what you are, and you are coming across as a very progressive business. Where do you see yourself taking this to? What's the end goal?
I mean, I think the end goal is really to have this as something that it provides me with a sense of satisfaction. I don't want it to feel like a job. It's basically what I do in my downtime. It's something that I use to escape from my actual day job. And it's something that I want to be able to keep doing small batches, a bit like how we see the likes of Chiara Zen and Dr. Incense. I don't think that's their 9-to-5 job, but it's something that it's a passion that they're able to share with the world. And I think that's the same idea. It's just really time dependent. I'm not interested in making a mass sort of multi-million business. I'm trying to just keep it something that's, keep it humble as its roots are, and just keep it something that's manageable for myself.
But if the opportunity came, or if the situation arose that you could potentially take this forward to be your full-time profession, would that be something you'd be interested in, or would you have to push back and be very firm with yourself?
I think I'd push back, because when working with other people have other ideas, and that's why to this day I haven't accepted any investment or any offers. People have different ideas and different views and different ethics about how they would approach things. Some people might see the money as the end goal, and they're willing to do anything that it takes to get there. And that means really sacrificing and going against your own principles, which is something I wouldn't want to do. I'd never work with diluted oud. I wouldn't touch an oud that was diluted. Same goes for sandalwood. I wouldn't cut corners with any of my products at all. If there was any whiff of something being wrong about a batch, the whole thing goes. We don't cut corners. You're trying to establish a good reputation, and a reputation is something that takes 10 years to build and 10 seconds to lose.
Definitely. Well, yeah, basically, I just really wanted to say, obviously, I've really, really enjoyed the samples that I've tried today. I think they're absolutely outstanding. You're doing some really, really good stuff there. Is there any that that are particularly close to your heart? I know it's like asking someone who their favourite child is. I get that, but I'm going to put you on the spot and say, is there one that you really, really love? Yeah,
I mean, I think I like the Cambodia Cola a lot. I wish I'd actually been able to buy more of it. Sadly, it's run out. I think that's probably one of the best oils I've ever, sort of sent out or even had myself. I mean, I've smelt some Oricent oils and some insard oils and oils from other vendors. But I think that really is a nice oil, and I think anybody that has it should be quite pleased of owning that, because I myself don't have much of it. Maybe I have 1 gram for myself. But I'm looking forward to bringing the successor. I hope it is quite similar.
Well, it's got a lot to live up to. No pressure.
I like the consistency of the oil. I like the color of it, and I was quite pleased with the sort of artistic work that I did with it. If the image on the website, I've got that cola effect, the splash. I was quite happy to work with that and to license that image as well. Of course, I've sent some wood down as well. Wood's a big passion of mine as well. I was quite pleased with the Cambodian, the wild Thai woods that I've had recently, and the Vietnamese.
My pronunciation is going to be appalling again, so please forgive me. But the Khao Yai wood.
The Khao Yai, yeah, I'm not Thai myself, but yeah, it's a wild wood from Khao Yai jungle, so it's quite rare. I think Al Hashmi offered a batch of it maybe a couple of years ago. I actually have some of that as well. I've not seen any other vendors offer wood from there recently. Most of the Thai wood that does come out tends to be organic, so it is quite rare to have a wood from Thailand that is wild. It is something that's sort of dying out, and the same goes for Cambodia as well. It's quite rare to have wild wood from Cambodia or even Vietnam. In those countries, you're seeing a sort of the supply has been dwindling nowadays. I think we see more and more batches coming from Indonesia and Malaysia than anything else that are wild.
And you obviously, I'm assuming, end your day with a good burning session at home.
I haven't actually been burning wood recently. I used to burn wood maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Somebody's borrowed my burner actually.
All right.
So I've been mostly coal burning and incense. I've been burning incense sticks. So incense sticks, I've launched a few in the past, and I'm currently sourcing some more. So I'm hoping to move towards Keenam incense sticks. So it is a big goal. You don't want to again buy mass-produced items. You want to work with the artisan who's making them, who's producing them, to produce something that is unique and special, something that doesn't come around a lot. So I was looking at producing Hong Kong agarwood sticks. So Hong Kong agarwood, a lot of people don't know, has existed historically in there. It's difficult to find wood from there, but of course the powders are available with the right contacts. So it's something that I've been looking at moving more into is incense sticks. It's something that isn't appreciated as much, and it's something that is quite mass produced generally. I think a lot of people, we have cheap incense sticks that maybe cost about 5 or 10 pence. It's really about pushing our current customer base and current market towards artisanal incense sticks, and it's something that I've got a lot of learning to do myself as well.
Well, this is it. When you're getting more heavily involved in something, you need to make sure, as you know well, your knowledge is on point, because you're going to be absorbing from other people, and you need to make sure that the other people are giving you what you need to know.
Indeed. Yeah. For with the oud as well, I mean, it takes hours of reading every day. The likes of, I think of Malik, for example, has a very wide knowledge of genetics and oud genetics as well. I've seen some posts there, and to explore a niche and to then report on its history, it takes hours and hours of reading. You can't just jump into something. You can't jump into spray-based perfumes or candles, because cutting those corners, it does show up in your products. It does show up when you have customers that know more about it than you do. So it is quite important to research something and to plan well and to plan ahead before you do come to launch it and before you do come to source it.
That's absolutely fair. Listen, Hamza, I want to say thank you very much for your time. I've absolutely really enjoyed the oils phenomenally. They were really, really good stuff. And obviously, you're spending your time with us today has been a great joy for us. So thank you very much for your time. And what I'll do is I will link you to reviews of your oils when I've had a chance to spend some more time with them. And obviously, I'll put the reviews out. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your time, and thank you for the nice comments. Thank you very much, and thank you for being part of the Oud Fest.
The products have been absolutely fantastic. I've been blown away by the quality today. It's been awesome. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
Right, got a lot of content there. I'm starting to struggle to keep it all in, really. This is why I think it's a good thing we're recording everything. And I think it says recording, so Hopefully we'll be able to put the content up on the channels for everyone to sort of view and digest slowly. Just wanted to thank you for your time, Matt.
Oh,
really
done absolutely amazing day.
appreciate you coming.
Oh, it's been brilliant.
I know you only came for the lunch,
Yeah,
but, you know.
Phenomenal it was. So.
I've got Malik waiting in the room now, so I'm going to bring him in. And I think who's going to be interviewing Malik? Marcus, was it yourself, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Salam, Malik. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing fine. How about you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Good. Thank you for joining us. It's a very, very white background. Are you in a lab or something?
No, I'm sitting on my bed actually.
Okay, right. I'm gonna give it over to Marcus to have a chat with you. Welcome on the show. Appreciate you being here. And I think we managed to get 10 minutes back, so we're sort of slightly getting back on schedule. We're only 15 minutes late at the moment. I'm just going to look at the questions. Yeah, some interesting questions really. I'm gonna hand it over to Marcus, and he's going to ask you about Al-Hashimi, the distillery plans. I try to keep away from that discussion earlier with Kike because I wanted to leave that stuff for you. So enjoy your time. I think it's 17, 18 people watching us at the moment, so we've got a pretty full house. Oh, Ahmed's Ahmed just we've got a chat here, you see, and Ahmed just looking good. I'm watching you, so behave.
Oh, can you guys hear me actually? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Right, okay.
So you can hear me, yeah?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
So, Assalamu alaikum, brother. I can't hear you. Nadeem, there's no sound for Malik.
Oh, okay, I could hear him a second ago. I think he switched. We've got sound. Malik, your audio is not reaching us.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It seems to be on and off, though, at the moment.
That's quite strange.
Okay, shall we use
How about now?
I can hear you at the minute.
Okay, let me actually, just right before we start, I'll try adjusting my internet connection to a different signal. Yes, hello?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can now, yes.
Okay, I think we've solved that issue.
Lovely. Shall we start from scratch?
Sure, as you like.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Brother Marcus?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm doing fine, alhamdulillah. It's a pleasure being here.
I can see that by your attire, we're streaming into Saudi Arabia. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. We're actually streaming in our distillation facility, which is also my bedroom.
Your bedroom and your... All right. Well, I'm tempted for you to show us around, but we'll leave that, I reckon. So
I can show you around, no problem.
Brother Malik, we're talking to Al-Hashimi, and Al-Hashimi is a company.
Yes, that is correct.
Tell me who's behind the company. What's brought the company about, and how did you get into the oud market?
It's actually quite funny. You know, I've always been into fragrances and into oud as well. You know, ever since a young age, being a Gulf Arab, we heavily consume oud on a daily basis, primarily in the form of oils and incenses. You know, Then came the whole Western fad of the sprays and the perfumes and stuff like that. But I still always knew oud oil and always used it. I just never built an interest to it in the way that you drink milk, but you don't farm cows.
Okay.
It was kind of like that.
And your,
Nadeem,
I'm sorry, carry on.
yes.
I beg your pardon.
Nadeem made the Udict forum, and I actually met Ahmed on there, who was one of our co-founders at Al Hashmi.
Right.
And me and Ahmed started a side project called Al Khadra Oud, which was a small shop on Etsy around, I'd say, 3.5 years ago or so. And it picked up quite quickly. It was very successful. After that, we merged with Nadeem into Al Hashmi, and it was very quickly where we picked up and, started our own in-house work.
So your company is actually, so you're personally based in Saudi Arabia, and this is why your distillery and your bedroom are there. Is that right?
Well, yes, that is correct. I do live in Saudi Arabia. I'm a Saudi citizen, and being here, I just figured it's a lot easier to distill here than it would be, for example, in Europe, where Ahmed and Nadeem reside, and also being, the oud capital of the world, as some would say, just made sense,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that would bring me on to a question that, I mean, you would be in the best position to answer, being a Saudi national, being in Saudi Arabia, where oud is probably, like you just mentioned, milk is probably one of those products that are so everyday, like milk is
Yes.
in the UK, for example. But of course,
Yes.
a pint of milk is more widely accessible to the average UK citizen than a drop of oud, a drop of pure, high quality oud. What would you say if I said to you that oud is a luxury item for the elite who have the fortune to experience that, and it is, being devil's advocate for a minute, it is inaccessible to most people on the street? What would you say to that?
That is definitely true in some essence. There are many different varieties of oud, as you already know. There's the wild counterpart, as well as the cultivated counterpart. And within each variety, there are also many different smaller varieties, in the cultivated variety, you have the organic, which, I disagree with the term organic, as people, once something is organic means that there has been no human intervention, but in cultivated oud, if it's cultivated, it's human intervention from the spot. So they could hack it with a machete or drill it using the drill bits to trigger the resin forming mechanism within the oud tree. Now, this subset of oud is generally accessible to most people, but the quality and the grade is not what most people are looking for. So they could tamper with it. There are many different methods of tampering, such as, resin injection using high pressure, or just, adding vetiver oil to the mix, or many other perfume oils to the mix. And this is something that's very widespread in Indonesia, where, say, around 1 kilo of it would cost around, give or less $70 or so. And it does smell quite oudi, it smells quite oudi, but in a very harsh and irritating manner. That's what people buy here. It's if you want the top quality milk per se, you need to have well-fed cows and stuff for that. But most of the milk we get are from places where cows are not treated very well, and it's similar to orange juice. Orange juice as well. They actually extract most of what makes orange juice and then dye it orange and put sugar in it because that's what people yearn for.
Yeah.
And so the same can be said for oud, and this is something that is not just in oud wood. This also goes across to oud oils. They have isolated specific compounds, certain chromones and sesquiterpenes, which they add in bulk to certain oils, and it just gives off this linear oudi fragrance rather than having the real deal. And they use these in mukhallats and atars and sprays, so be it, so it is accessible to anybody who wants it, but if you want the real deal, then that niche suddenly gets a lot smaller. And then if you want the high quality of the real deal, that niche gets even more small. And if you want the artisanal class, or artisanal distillations that have truly artistic and engineering ingenuity behind them, then that niche just dials down to zero, to a very few people.
Yes, I understand.
And
yes. From a business point of view, we were talking earlier on about the old established brands from the 70s, 80s, like Al-Haramain, Najmal, etc., that have been going for a long time and that have started out with top-end quality stuff. And I guess because of growth and because of demand, they're also become more and more accessible to a wider variety of people. They've branched out to I suppose, include in their assortment oils that are of lower quality, because as you say, the higher the quality, the narrower the narrower your market is. So if you want to expand your market, it is logical that you need to lower the quality so more people can afford it and enjoy it. Is that something that is in the mind of somebody who does oud as a business in the long term?
Yes and no. These mega brands such as Abdul Samad al-Qurashi, Al-Haramain, as you mentioned, Arabian Oud. Personally, I view these as the McDonald's of oud. They're everywhere. They have so many branches, and even if they wanted all their product to be real oud and top quality oud, it would be near impossible. There's simply not enough supply for that demand. And so the same as fast food brands do, they would dumb down their oils, and make it in an accessible manner. Even their higher quality oils are usually dumbed down. And by dumbing down, what I mean is they would say this oil is aged for 50 years, but what that really means is that they took a few grams of 50-year oil and blended it with less superior oils or more inferior oils, and then they'd sell it as pure oud oil, 50 years aged. Now, while it may be pure oud oil, it's there's a fine line. It's pure, but it's not what they are marketing it out to be. So even their elite products are still fast food ouds. It's but even within these brands, you must understand these brands are not doing that because they want to. Some people criticize them and saying, oh, they have tarnished oud. These brands are just people who want to make a livelihood, people who want, everybody who builds a brand wishes to get high up there at the end. And these brands as well supply artisanal oud, but to their certain niches. They're not going to post it online for everybody to buy. They have specific customers that they target with these items, specific families, loyal families that have been with them, purchasing from them, for decades. So if, for example, I come and knock the door on them wanting their best product, they're going to tell me, who are you for us to sell it to you? It's not even about money. It's about the prestige at that point. And if I'm not a prestigious person, then to them, why am I worth getting their product if I may not return next year for the next batch and so on? People think these houses only sell the adulterated products and so on, but These houses actually have the biggest stockpiles of, high-grade agarwood. Actually, a few years ago, I witnessed personally one of these houses haul in 700 kilograms of wild Sri Lankan agar. And that's not a small number. Those are China market numbers, and none of that 700 kilograms was of low quality. That was just their good stock, besides the leftover stock. So you could imagine for those 700 kilograms that they hauled in, which is more than all of us vendors own combined, they also have, 1,200 tons of adulterated wood or perfumed wood and so on. And so they also have kilos of artisanal oil sitting in their shelves. But for those kilos, they have tons of oil that are of inferior quality or adulterated with vetiver or synthetics and so on. So even these big brands play a big role in it. A lot of people think that, oh, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know real oud. But you need to understand that when you go to these brands and you meet the person who is sitting behind the desk, he's not an oud expert, he's a salesman. So we should not ever expect him to know what he's talking about. He's just there to push a product by any means possible. And so that's why I dislike the criticism for these big brands. I often try to defend them because they're doing an entirely different thing. These are people doing it entirely. We don't. If we were to talk bad about them, we have to talk bad about every industry in existence. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. So, Malik, you mentioned China and the emerging market in China, which I believe has sort of slowly developed, but quite significantly developed over the last decade or so. What sort of impact has that had on the way that you run the business, or the way that you can plan your business in terms of demand and supply and the kind of the quality of the products that you need to produce?
It's quite difficult, actually. The Chinese market, they've made it very difficult for us. And it gets even more difficult when we go up in the tier of products that we're trying to source. A lot of times when there's a hunter who gets a fine batch of oud and wants to sell it, that hunter would perform what is called a WhatsApp auction. He would go to his potential buyers and, listen to what prices they might offer. And so I would offer my price, and then this Chinese person would offer 10 times my price and just snatch that batch away. And so a lot of the times you have to build very strong connections with certain people, to get first dibs on that batch. The batch that I have online right now on our website is called Brunei Rattas. Rattas means drowning because the pieces sink in the water. Now that batch was actually a batch that I had to grab before some Chinese businessmen bought it. And it wasn't easy, I kept having to bid higher until I got it. And so a lot of the time doing that just thins out your margins. Anybody in this business who says they're not profitable is a liar. Businesses need to be profitable to continue. And so while businesses make profit to stay afloat, sometimes that profit just isn't enough for that full-blown expansion. This batch of Brunei Rattas is very well one of those batches. It's only enough for us to hope for the next batch. And so it's this endless, ruthless cycle of sourcing and attempting to sell and sourcing, attempting to sell. And sometimes your money gets stuck within one batch, and you hope that you could find somebody to wholesale that batch to, which further narrows that margin. So these Chinese buyers, they've made it extremely difficult for small players to even have a share. In the Philippines, which is considered, the last frontier of oud for some, they've completely wiped out certain areas. Tawi-Tawi was just discovered to have oud reserves around 2 years ago. Now that area is bone dry. There is nothing left. Not even, there are trees left, but nothing left of incense grade wood per se. I have tried finding tawi wood for the last year, and the only people who have batches of it won't let go of it. And so they moved on to Mindanao. They moved on to Leyte. They moved on to Davao. And these are people with enormous buying power. Like one person who goes there, he's not actually the businessman. He's just one of the, as you'd call, lackeys of a businessman, or of many businessmen at once. And so this guy gives him $100,000. This guy gives him $500,000. This guy gives him 2 million. And he just goes around and purchases everything he can get his hands on. And because he still has a surplus of money, the hunters go back, cut more trees to supply. And so they just completely wipe out everything. And you come and try to pick up the bits, and we try to sell some respectable quality chips online to our consumers. But it's not easy, to say the least. It's not easy to find the right thing amongst the carnage that is left over behind. You find batches of wood that can cost nothing, and then you have, on the other hand, batches of wood that are quite expensive, but to buy this, you have to buy that with it because they're one lot. And so what are you supposed to do at the end of the day?
But it's interesting. I mean, what you were saying about the stock in Philippines that was discovered so recently and is already wiped out, that sort of leads me on to the whole idea of ethically sourced stuff and sustainability. Are those kind of things, are those values that you rank highly in operating your business? And how do you go about this, given that the tree where the oud comes from is, at the end of the day, a limited resource, and once they're gone, right?
This question of yours, because it allows me to educate many people at the same time when I answer this question.
Okay.
Whilst high quality oud can be considered a finite resource, it is a resource that reproduces itself regularly. What occurred, for example, in Malaysia a couple of centuries ago, the Portuguese had colonized the region, and they themselves were cutting down all the trees there and selling it off. To the Eastern countries like China, to the Arabs through the Silk Road. And so at that time, there were no reserves of high quality oud left in the jungles of Malaysia. But once the Portuguese left the region and a few decades had passed, people were finding King Super grade pieces again in the jungle, and they were finding it in abundance. And so it's not a matter of ethically resourcing. It's more of a matter of, number one, try not to cut the whole tree down. Number two, only focus on getting the high quality stuff. Don't cut a tree just because it has, one tiny ignet of agarwood in it. It's not worth it. I actually myself visited Malaysia numerous times and have seen trees with infected wood without cutting them down, because what's a finger of oud in front of a whole tree? It simply doesn't make sense. But people there would actually cut that tree down, process the entire thing, get that finger, and be like, "Yay, we got some oud." And that's what's causing these reserves to end out. Now in the Philippines, whilst it has finished quite quickly, it's going to come back just as fast. They leave these areas. The people there are not exactly passionate about oud. They just want to make a quick buck. And so once they give up and the jungles are allowed to recharge, the cycle produces itself once again. People go back, hunt for it, and so on and so on.
Now, Nadeem was just giving me a little hint to say that you're happy to show us your distillery. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
That would be very interesting, I
guys,
think, for the viewers to get an idea of what do you get up to in your bedroom.
Okay, so this is my humble abode.
Uh-huh.
You know, this is our copper pots that we use for our
Okay.
distillations. And here is a distillery in full action. It's operating as we speak.
We've got
And as you
frozen
can see,
green at the moment.
that's some artisanal oud oil. Yeah,
Ah, here we
this is
go.
some oil coming right now using some.
Right.
This is a batch of oil that we've made using some new techniques we've developed.
Uh-huh.
And they're quite ingenious techniques, which I will share once the oil is released. I just don't want to share it and have anybody go and do it and then release an oil before I release mine. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. But Malik, brother, tell me, why is it? I can see a little bit of. Oh no, that's so. So we're looking at a clear liquid, clear fluid there.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is correct. The
that's
clear fluid
that's
is
the
water,
oil. So,
and then
so
this
ev-
dark.
sorry, everything that we've tried here today, and I'm completely ooded out. I think every segment of my hand and every inch of my skin has a different bit of oud oil on it. But they were all dark brown and different shades of brown. Why are we looking at something clear? Just to be asking an ignorant, but perhaps a question that other people might wonder about as well.
Oh, you mean over here?
Yeah,
Over here, this clear part is just water.
that's
The
just
clear part is simply water.
okay. So that's
And the top
actually-
layer, the top
Yeah.
brown layer is the oud.
right. So I was thinking that I
Do you
could
see the top layer?
something dark swimming right on top. I get you.
Yeah, that's the oud oil that is on
Uh-huh.
top.
So that looks like a kind
Although
of
there have
a minute
been,
amount.
that's around 3 or 4 grams of oil.
Okay.
I actually have some more oil right over here, which is from the same batch, but using a different distillation technique.
Right.
This is around, I'd say, a tola.
Yeah.
Yeah, around 12 grams of oil.
Okay.
And this is using the same material that's in that pot right now, just applying a different distillation method to it.
Okay. Excellent. I bet your
And
bedroom.
so, you know, these methods that I do are just for. Oh, it does. You know, I have these boxes here filled with oud wood as well for our personal distillations.
Okay. Now, Malik, I'm sorry, I just need to check with Nadeem because I'm a bugger at keeping track of time. How long have we got? Yeah, we're doing okay. So can I ask you one more question, Malik, please?
I think we have like a. Yes, of course. Go ahead.
So personally, I'm not an expert on oud by any means. I'm not an expert on much anything apart from the work that I do, which is I'm a nurse. But in terms of fragrance, my background is more perfumery rather than oud for reasons of finance and accessibility. And I guess I think most people in the West who are not used to oud from a traditional background in terms of being born into a family where the use of oud is commonplace. We discover oud sort of at the end of the road or towards the end of the road of going through, you know, the usual high street designer perfumes and perhaps niche perfumes. And you think, oh, you know, the term oud crops up more and more and more, and you look into it and then you end up in the oud world. So from a sort of a perfumery point of view, how would you compare the art of perfumery, or could you put it on a similar level? The art of perfumery, putting a perfume together, creating something by taking various ingredients, having an idea of what you want to create. Is that the same level as producing, distilling oud? So I guess to put it in another way, how much control do you have of the finished product? Is it possible to have an idea of what you want to create and then in your bedroom come up with exactly that?
Your question has been something that has been debated in the online oud forums for years now. And the debate basically goes, is oud distillation? And what I have to say is similar to how an artist understands his brushes and selects which brush to use to paint this color on the canvas and which brush he uses to paint that color on the canvas. Oud distillation can be, expressed in the same manner. Once you have an understanding of how distillation works, there's something called thermodynamic equilibrium, which has something to do with the boiling point in relation to temperature and pressure. Once you understand these basic fundamentals, then you begin to understand how you can really play with that to get the oil out, the essential oil out of the wood at different temperature ranges. For example, let's say you want an oil that is much more top note heavy, then you'd have to invest in a much more efficient condenser, and you might want to also distill at a very low temperature. That will get you much more volatile compounds out. And your condenser will save much more of that vapor and condense it down into liquid. If you want an oil that is much more base heavy, you might want to prolong your distillation to the end and possibly bring down that thermodynamic equilibrium using some sort of vacuum. That way you can cause the distillation to boil over at a much lower temperature. This results in many different facets that you can create in oud, and understanding how to use those facets in correspondence with one another is similar to how a perfume would, create this fragrance. In the distillation that you're seeing right now, I've used many different techniques over many different fractions. For the first fractions of highly volatile compounds, I actually used a very efficient condenser to capture that, separate it at the side, and then also go forth to the second fraction. Now, once I started my second fraction, I said, okay, let me actually allow the same wood to sit down and soak for a bit in the water. So it's one batch of wood, but the second fraction actually has a soak. This produces many different facets and many different parts of down. I can say, okay, I want my resulting oud to be 40% of the third fraction, and 50% of the second fraction, and 10% of the first fraction. Now, I may have wasted a lot of oud oil by not using how much of which oud compounds I want to comprise my oud oil. So there's a lot more art involved, and there's a very high learning curve that one needs to grasp when doing these things. And experimentation really brings about results, but as you know, experimentation with something like this is quite expensive, which really limits people and how far they can go. That's why most people in the oud world are actually afraid of experimenting. You get a nice batch of wood. Do you really want to risk trying something new on it that you may not know if the result is good or not? So I would say yes, it's like perfumery in its art form in terms of creating something new. You can, with enough experience, build an understanding of the resulting oil prior to distilling it just from the raw material.
Yeah, it seems to me that from what you're describing, and like I said to you, I'm not an expert by any means, and I have no idea of the distilling process, what it involves. So having that explained to me is really helpful, because it gives me an idea of how personally you must be involved in creating the end drop that goes into the little bottles. How much of yourself is in that, and the thought that is,
of course.
The minute details of what you've explained. How long do you leave it to boil? How long do you leave it to ferment? And those kind of things. That's fascinating.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't get more personal than having the distillation in your bedroom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks for the tour. That was revealing. So I smelled earlier from Al Hashimi kakaya. So kakaya means jackfruit.
Yes. Yes.
And I did a little review on it earlier, and
Yes.
I was really quite impressed by the fruitiness that it has, but
Yes,
also
it does have this.
it has a depth and a darkness that with the jackfruit makes a really unusual combination.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this is actually quite the perfect example to. Do you remember your previous question when you were asking how the creation of perfume relates to, oud distillation?
Mm.
That fruitiness that you're getting is a combination of primarily two things. It's a co-distillation between Malaysian oud and Cambodia oud.
Yes.
With Malaysian oud, a lot of times you get this resinous cola vibe. It's quite a common note in Malaysians. And then with Cambodians, you get this fruity element. Now, the fruit in Cambodia oud is not generally a tropical fruit. Rather, it's more of I'd say more of a plummy or a plummy fruit with toffee-like notes and caramels and things like that. Oftentimes, it can also be spicy, quite red.
Yeah, I was thinking.
When you combine these two together, this cola note. Yeah. When you combine them together, this cola note with this fruity note, it just gives off this resinous, leathery, fruity, tropical vibe at the end of it. And so this is a perfect example of how, an oud distiller can gauge his final product by 2 batches of wood.
Yes, that is very fascinating. And another one I've tried just now is called Lindaraja Papua, 2015.
Yes.
And my impression of that one is
special.
that it's really quite gentle compared to the kakaya.
Yes, that is correct. That one is quite an interesting oil because that oil is extremely top note heavy. Just like this zap of these high-pitched top notes. It completely lacks mid notes and bass. It's just, all you're getting is top notes in this oil, and it's actually a co-distillation of 3 different areas of Kalimantan, Sumatra, and the last one I'm forgetting. It's such an old oil. I think it's 2015 or 2016 distillation.
Yeah.
It escapes my mind, the last region. But these regions combined together distilled at such a low temperature, even actually lower than the boiling point of water. The boiling point of water is 100 degrees. These were distilled at even lower than that, using certain vacuum methods to lower the boiling point. And it just gives this top note heavy oil because only the volatile compounds were captured. None of the heavier semi-volatile compounds were captured in it.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, that is really a nice. I mean, having the Papua and the kakaya together, they're so different, and your explanation makes absolute sense that they're distilled in a different way, and the top notes are much more prominent on the Papua one.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Brother Malik. I think
I appreciate your time, Marcus.
No, I appreciate your time, and thank you for showing us around your abode and your fascinating distillery. When I get home, I'm going to grab a copper pot from the kitchen and I'll start my own, if that's okay with you.
I would love to see that. You can get in contact with me and I can help out.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Thank you, Brother Marcus. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I think there's one more, and that's it. We've got one more person. Rahel is waiting in the room. That was a really good explanation by Malik. and interesting to the distillery as well. I've hardly seen it myself, to be honest with you. I think he showed us, me and Ahmed, a few days ago. I've not really seen much of it myself. Yeah. Rahel, you're on mute, yeah? So this, thanks, that's better. Yeah, you're on. This is the final session. I know that I know that you couldn't make it to the distillery, but you sent us footage of the distillery from earlier. I'm just trying to think of how it's going to work, because
yeah, even the line here is quite bad. So, I mean, going to the distillery right now, it's dark now anyway. So, you know, you would probably get a good visual of it. But yeah, got some clips. Hopefully that will suffice.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how I'm going to do this, because technically, on technical plane, because the thing is that the streaming software is different to this, and it will stream on a different channel. That's the issue.
They can see a lot of this on my YouTube channel as well. So if they really wanted to see me distilling it,
I think I think what we'll do is what we'll do is you can talk about the distillery, and then I will upload the short videos onto the channel straight away afterwards, so that people can see what you're talking about. Because I've seen your pot, and it looks like a real tour de force. You know, it's a real bit of heavyweight engineering. And
well, it's a classic Thai pot. Yeah, it's a classic Thai pot. So
yeah, I mean, it looks pretty well engineered. Marcus, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll leave you in Marcus's hands. So for everyone watching, thank you for staying with us all day. I hope you haven't fallen asleep. And this is the last interview for the day. I will be concluding after this interview. We've got the competition. If you do want to enter the competition, just a reminder, the question was, how many pots does Al-Hashmi have? How many pots does Oud Base have? And hopefully you'll have the answers in the last and the present interview. Bonus points for what kind of pots they are, but you need to message me directly on Udict, my personal Udict account on the Udict platform. If you're not registered, register. It's very simple. And you can just send me a direct message with the answer, and then I'll basically just get a list. You know, I'll do a live draw at some point, or maybe not a live draw. So I'll do a draw and pick out someone from whoever, you know, has entered. What is on offer is a $200 pack of St. Legend's oils samples. These are some of the oils that we've got. These are, as I mentioned earlier, these are not mine. These are actually from literally a millionaire oud investor who wants to sell some stock through St. Legend's. So we'll be giving out some samples of that to the winner, and also anything that's left over from here. There's quite a few samples from the generous vendors who've been sending samples across for review. So we'll be sending a nice little pack to whoever wins the competition. So please send me the answers on my Udict platform. So how many pots? Yeah, pots as in stills do they have, and what kind for a bonus? So answers to my direct account online on udict.com, and I will hand over to Brother Marcus so that he can conduct this interview with Rahel from Oud Base. Over to you, Marcus.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam. How you doing?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Finally, face to face.
Say again?
Finally, face to face with you.
I know. Well, to be honest, I was hoping it would be physically face to face, but you know, lockdown and all that. So yeah, I just figured that. I was I was due to come back to the UK, but then I realised I had to quarantine for 14 days, which would have meant that I would have, you know, missed out on the Oud Fest. So I thought, you know, and that was the main reason why I was going back so soon anyway. So I decided to stay here and oversee the rest of the distillation of the Sri Lankan that we put in the other day. So yeah.
Excellent. And Brother Rahel, your company is called Oud Base, and yours is actually the only company that I had any prior knowledge of before coming here today.
Wow.
Your oils were not part of anything that we've smelled today, and like I said earlier, I'm completely ouded out. You know, I've got different ouds all over the place on my body, but and my scarf and everything. But you kindly sent me a pack of samples a few months ago now.
Yeah.
And I know them so well now that I don't need to have them sniffed here to be able to talk to you about them.
Yeah.
So, but before we get on to the actual products, I'd be interested in just knowing you're in Dubai at the moment, and your distillery or your relative's distillery, that's where it's located. Is that right?
Well, it's my pots, but my in-laws helped me. They've helped me to install it and you know and keep it for me. But they also have access to it as well. My brother-in-law, so he distills some of his stuff as well as some of the higher end stuff.
Okay.
He's the one. Yeah, he's the one who's actually helping me source all materials and stuff like that because. You know, like I say in one of my videos, there's, you know, the access to Arglewood here is one of the best places. You know, there's tons of it everywhere. It's just you just got to know where to go and get it. Really, that's all it is. Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like having a brother-in-law like in that position is perfect. I mean, you're
I tell you, I'm truly blessed. I really am. Truly blessed.
Does he do his own brand of stuff, or is he virtually just a supplier of food?
Yeah, he wholesales. He wholesales. That's his main thing. That's what he does. He's got his own clientels. So he sells by the kilos, you know. So, you know, around me, I've like literally 10 to 20, 30, 40 kilos, things like that, you know. So it's not, his stuff is mainly Hindi. He specializes in Hindi oud. But again, he also does Indonesians and everywhere from wherever you can source. But majority of the time, it's Hindi. Yeah, okay, that's the big market here. Yeah.
So looking at your website, which any of the viewers, I can't see how many viewers we have now, but whoever's watching can look at that on your website, Oud Base. Your range of different oud materials is quite wide. You're not a one-trick pony, are you?
Oh no, I mean, look, again, in the UAE, you know, there's a lot of traders here. So when I got introduced to it, and you know, I got introduced to lots of different types of oud. You know, so it wasn't just one type of oud that's all I know. But it's, you know, as I said, they're traders, so they sell in a variety of different types, but predominantly what sells in the UAE is Hindi. That's the biggest market here for the ouds. But you know, people don't just burn Hindis all the time, you know. So you know, Indonesians. In fact, Indonesians, like I said to Michelle earlier on, Indonesian was my first trade. I mean, that was the first thing I brought from Kalimantan, you know, with my father-in-law. Back in 2014, that was my first taste of selling oud, you know, and yeah, I've learned a heck of a lot from there, you know, there on, you know. So
I bet you have, and I mean, for the likes of me, and I'm sure Matt would agree, who was on earlier on, the learning curve is just astonishingly steep. And it's only now that I'm kind of getting my head around the difference between Hindi oud and the fruity Cambodian and the kind of sunshiny vibe from the Sri Lankan oud. Yeah. But with Oud Base, it seems that you cater for all of those tastes. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it comes down to you know, my own preferences, my own desire to kind of provide as much as I can, you know, variety, you know, the old cheesy phrase, you know, variety is variety is the spice of life, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's also, I wanted to like show everyone that it's, you know, oud is not just a Hindi oud which smells of poo. You know what I mean? You know, there's so many different types, and there's so many different ways of distilling it. You know, and when you're distilling, like, you know, good quality oud, you know, it has so many different layers of facets in there that it just blows your mind, really. Yeah. So
it certainly does. And I mean, one of the oils that really grabbed me from, I mean, they're all fantastic, I've got to say, but the one that and I keep telling people about my daughter who has an incredible oud radar, and you know, when she's ready to pack her bags and leave the house, then I know that I've got something really good on my hands. And so I spent a little bit of money. I mean, your prices are pretty good, so it wasn't too hard on my wallet to get a milliliter of Funkmeister, which is just.
You like the funk, huh?
It's just so good. I mean, it's, you know, you should be locked up for smelling like that. In some places you probably would be. But it's just, I mean, and I love the name. The name is just so spot on for it. It's just the master of funk, and I love funk. It's so good.
Me too.
But it doesn't just have that funky opening that makes, you know, normal people run away from you, but it just goes deeper than that. And it's just so lovely.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why perfumers love to use Hindi oud in their blends, you know, because it has that extra layer of, you know, it develops so much in comparison to some of the others, and you know, some of the ones you mentioned that, you know, I sent you, it's not the same. It's, you know, this is the thing. I mean, if you compare, even with wood, even with Hindi oud, for instance, if you compare like for like, you know, if you compare, say, like a 20-year-old tree with a Thai 20-year-old tree, you know, inoculated with nails or naturally, you compare the two. The Hindi, for me, this is just my opinion, and maybe I'm being biased, but the Hindi definitely has that extra something, you know, the extra layers, you know, the more depth in comparison to any of the others. This is just, you know, my observation and you know, my opinion.
I'm very tempted to agree with you, and you know, sometimes when I smell, especially things like Funkmeister, and I you know, I grab that depth that it takes me to. And I mean, one of the interviewers and reviewers, Michelle from Holland, was saying this earlier, that she does not or wouldn't or hasn't worn pure oud oil on its own, but layers. And sometimes you are tempted with the fragrance or with some other oil just to add a dab of Hindi. But then when I smell the Hindi, I don't want to spoil it with anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you know what? I'm loving this interview because you're talking exactly how I feel about some of the oils, especially the Funkmeister as well. But yeah, there is that difficult aspect of it, you know, wearing and going outside with it is sometimes not the smartest thing to do, because you just get the wrong you know, impressions from people, you know. But yeah, it's super. I mean, I find it super therapeutic. You know what I mean? And that goes for pretty much all the oils. But for Hindi, there's, like I said, there's an extra, has an extra speciality in there, and it's the way it develops, and the depth of it is superior for in comparison to the others. This is, you know, my own opinion. Yeah,
it is, and it probably is more of a solitary experience for you know,
Definitely.
obvious reasons. And in that, it makes it an ideal kind of almost like a ritual for me anyway, you know,
Yeah.
having that time to yourself, perhaps at the end of the day when you might even be burning some oud and having Funkmeister on. And
did you get the chance to burn the Hindi oud at all?
I haven't burned your Hindi oud yet, the Mori.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
no. But I was speaking to Matt on the way here, and you know, he's been burning it and he loves it.
Yeah.
I've only just recently got myself a burner, and I've started with incense just to get the hang of it, and I've only just the last few days bought these mica plates to go on the charcoal, because I didn't want to put the oud straight on the charcoal and then it's gone within 5 minutes. So I wanted to
I think
make it last.
on that side of things, I think it's best to actually get an electric one and just, you know, lower the heat and stuff like this. But what you'll find is that you'll get different tones and notes from when you're burning on charcoal as opposed to burning on electric burner, and even ceramics as well. It's this is why it's just, you know, it's just such a mind-blowing experience, the whole thing, you know, really. Just I never get bored with burning oud, really. I'll never, and the day I do, oh my God.
But it's so addictive, isn't it? I mean, you know, I started off burning incense sticks, and then I don't think I ever bothered with incense cones, but I mean, same kind of thing. And then with the burner, you get the real incense granules and the big lumps of stuff, and that oud wood, and you know, it is so addictive. It's like you know, you habit forming, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah. So look, this is the kind of thing I try and address as well. You know, obviously, you know, it is quite expensive ingredient, you know, so I try and I do my best to try and, you know, procure good quality wood for the price. Do you know what I mean? So for instance, it does take a certain level of skill to actually go and source those materials. It's easy to go and to a certain extent, if you've got someone who you trust, then it's fairly easy to go and buy some sinking grade, because you know, well, sinking grade is going to be good. Whereas when you're buying the lower grades, it takes more of a skill to go and, you know, select the pieces that you want, you know. So this is where I try and you know, this is what I did with my previous batch of the Bengali wood. But yeah, so this is what I'm trying. This is what I'm going to do with. This is what I've been doing with my Hindi that I've got here, which is called Hindi Sola. So hopefully I'll have that on my website, and I'm trying to make it as affordable as possible. You know, so hopefully just to get the word out. You know, I want more people to try it, man. I don't want it just for the rich and wealthy. Yeah. You know, this stuff is amazing. You know, it's really good for, you know, your mental and emotional health and meditation and stuff like this. You know, it's a beautiful product.
Absolutely. I mean, I was talking to Brother Malik from Al Hashimi earlier about the availability or accessibility to. Yeah. I mean, we're talking high-end niche elite versus mass market, and I guess you're trying somewhere in the middle or near the sort of upper middle part to reach that kind of audience.
You know, with that, you know, if you want to kind of bridge that gap, for me anyway, it is really knowing your wood and knowing how to clean the wood, gives you an idea of you know, give you an idea of how to select the right grades. I mean, I've got videos coming up in the next few weeks where I have footage of me and my brother, my father-in-law, you know, grading some of these woods here, and, you know, selecting certain amounts for me to purchase, and then obviously getting his, you know, him teaching me what to look out for and what pieces to buy, because in the trade they have specific names for specific wood pieces, specific shapes. they know roughly which ones will hold the most amount of aroma, stuff like this, which is really vital for selling wood, especially like for the mass market, you know.
And I've noticed that recently you've really you've really kind of gone to town on the on your Instagram feed in terms of discussing oud and everything about oud, and not in a way necessarily to big yourself up, but to inform people in a more general way, and I really think that is useful. So guys, if you're not following Oud Base yet on Instagram, do that, oud.base. And Rahel is an expert, and if you want to know about,
I wouldn't go as far as saying expert, but well, I'm still a student. I'm still learning. But yeah, I've been taught by the expert. I'm being taught by the expert as I'm going along. So.
You're passing on the knowledge, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So and that leads me on to something else. The way that you talk about oud, as I said, you're not doing it to necessarily big up yourself. I mean, obviously, you know, towards the end, you kind of say, well, you know, we at Oud Base, blah, 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 which is what you would do because you're running a business. But it seems to me that, you know, your posts that I've seen are obviously informative, but also, what's the word I'm looking for? It seems to me that you're not an elbow kind of person. You know, everybody else get out of the way, and we're the best kind of thing. And that's what I like about you. And
I love competition. You know, so
that's the feeling I've been getting here from Nadeem, and you know, the number of different vendors and companies that have joined the whole Global Oud Fest. There seems to be camaraderie rather than a sort of a confrontation or competition going on.
Absolutely. I mean, look, that's what drew me to Oudit. So now I went to a different Oud Fest, and then a few months later I came to this Oud Fest, and of course this one is different now. But the one I went to, where we actually physically met in a venue. And I got to meet everyone, and I you know, was doing some interviews with everyone, and wallahi, to be honest, the vibe and the feeling I got from everyone was just like, wow, this is the Oud Fest, and this is what I wanted to be a part of. And as soon as, like, you know, I started talking to Nadeem, and he was telling me about Oudit and stuff like this, I was like, wow, yes, I'm gonna open up shop with these guys, you know. So that was my feeling. It was just that it just had such a vibe, you know, and for me it represents Oud, that vibe of you know, the love, man. It's just, seriously, that's what it represents.
Sorry, brother, carry on.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was
saying. Sorry, let's go on. I'll leave say.
You go.
Okay, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, Oud shouldn't be like a selfish thing where we try and hoard it all for ourselves. And do you know what I mean? It's you know, I love this stuff, and it gives me, you know, there's no more pleasure than sharing with someone who actually enjoys it as much as I do. It's a buzz, and it's why when I talk to someone like yourself and some of the other guys, and the moment I see that person actually genuinely likes it, man, that's just that does it for me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes.
Well,
you know,
and I agree. And Oud Fest, I mean, fest is a German word for celebration, and that is exactly the kind of feeling that I've been getting all day here. Even though there's only 3 of us in this room, and there's now we're down to 2, but it's been a real celebration of Oud rather than, you know, bigging up different companies. It's not about that. We're just celebrating the love, like you mentioned, and the joy that we all get from smelling this stuff, and what it does to our head, you know, and not just the head, because it seems to, I mean, you smell this stuff and it seems to enter your soul, doesn't it? I mean, I know it sounds a bit hippie to say, but you, I mean, I know you know what I'm talking about.
I absolutely know what you're talking about. I feel it. I genuinely feel it. It's such a buzz. It really is. And this is the thing. When I went to the Oud Fest, was it 2018 or 19? I can't remember now. It just seems so long ago. But I didn't feel that, pressure to go and buy. Do you know what I mean? Like there are other people out there who will put that pressure on. And you might have an idea of going and all right, I've got a budget of like a couple of £100, and then leave that venue having spent $690. You know what I mean? So you're like, whoa, what happened there? But with the Oudic community and the Oud Fest, it wasn't like that at all. It was come have a look, try it out, see if you like it. And that's what it should be about. It shouldn't really be about push.
Yeah.
Although we are there to sell, but there's a balance.
Well, you are there to sell. So let me talk about something that I noticed on your. I don't remember whether it was your website or on your Instagram feed, but you've got something exciting coming up, and I've completely forgotten what it is. So why don't you remind me?
Yeah. So basically, we've just finished up. Distilling our own high grade. We've got 2 Sri Lankans that just finished distilling, and 1 high grade Hindi. And we've got another Indonesian coming out, which I purchased from someone else. And we've got a bunch of wood that we'll be hopefully showcasing on our website very soon. So for the last few weeks, I've been working on this one here, which is really kind of the top end of our distillation, the best oil that we've distilled so far ourselves, which is like literally incense grade wood chips that we used for this one, Sri Lankan one, which rivals a lot of high grade Sri Lankan oils out there. And I don't want to be naming anyone's, but there is. And I'll see what I can do for you, Marcus. I'll see. Let's see. We've got enough.
I'm already dribbling.
Mate, you're gonna love this one. You're gonna love this one. Seriously.
Do you have a name for it yet?
I haven't. No.
How do you come up with the names?
Say again.
How do you come up with the names for it?
Well, I'll look into, for instance, sometimes the history of that place or the location, or a particular word in Sri Lankan or in Hindi or wherever. So stuff like this, really. Yeah, that's generally the direction I go to search for names.
Excellent. Now, on a more personal level, we've had a couple of exchanges via audio message, voicemail on DM, Instagram, and there's always been little children in the background. I'm assuming your offspring. So you're away from them at the moment. I go.
Yeah, I'm away from my little my girls and boys. I've got 4 of them now. Yeah. Are they doing? God.
Are they doing okay?
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're doing fine, but I'm missing them a heck of a lot, So I'm looking to come back as soon as possible. Really.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
brother.
for asking.
You're welcome. Brother, I've gone through my questions, or maybe the only other one that something that I asked Brother Malik from Al Hashimi as well. And he did give me a good answer, but I wanted to ask you the same for your company, and because something that is very close to my heart, and I'm sure it is to you as well, and something that as Muslims we should be mindful of anyway, in terms of how we treat the environment. So things like ethical sourcing and sustainability, and doing no harm to animals and those kind of things. Does your company have a take on that side of things?
Absolutely. I mean, look, you can't look. The idea of just going around and just chopping up trees and to search for it's just. And the thing is, as far as I know, in terms of plantation, I would say India is leading the way. You know, so a lot of the wood you get out of Bangladesh and India are plantation, and because the area like Assam and places like that, it gets naturally infected by insects. They don't need to inoculate it. Whereas in Bangladesh, it's the infection rate is a little bit lower. So what they'll do is they'll nail it. So they're not using any chemicals or anything like that. So, you know, I do care about these things. It does matter to me a heck of a lot because, again, and as you know, in Islam, we're not supposed to just go around cutting off trees. You know, it's not it's not allowed. But you know, if you look at you know, the Argylwood trade in general, everything gets used. You know, yes, okay. When it comes to the wild stuff, yes, they'll willy-nilly go and cut things down. But when it comes to the plantation stuff, and that's throughout the board, you know, the roots get used, the skin of the tree sometimes gets used, the leaves get used for tea. You know, the flower of the thing gets used. I don't know about the fruit. I'll find out if that gets used. But every part of it gets used. Even the white wood gets used for making something like, you know, boya. You know, this is half boya and something else. Boya is white wood of the aquilera tree, basically. So everything gets used. You know, so this is the other thing about the trade. It's you know, especially the plantation aspect of it. You know, it's not all about just money and just, you know, destroying everything. No, it's a sustainable thing. It can be a really sustainable thing. Just look at India, you know, they're doing it pretty good. And even in Malaysia, you know, and Thailand, yeah, it's possible, you know. So yeah, it's a bright future, I think, if we obviously play our cards right.
I heard of plans of introducing the aquilera tree to Australia and opening up a whole new source.
Mate, you've been doing your research. I like that. I like that. Yeah, they've I think in Queensland, isn't it? They've got a plantation. Yeah. Wow, so, Marcus, you've impressed me with that one. Well done.
I mean, that would potentially, I mean, looking at how huge Australia is,
yeah,
that would keep us happy for a few years, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But I think only a certain area of Australia is accessible for.
I think once the money comes flowing into that country from the oud wood,
yeah,
you're going to see that multiplying.
Yeah. Well, I can see them doing really well with that. You know, I mean, look, even in India, you know, like different parts of India, there where you never think that aquilera would be growing there and you know getting infected. Well, there are people out there doing that, you know. So yeah, it's looking good, I think, you know, and we're heading the right direction. But obviously, more needs to be done about, you know. I think it's just educating some of the people who are going out there. If you've got, you know, some of the hunters and stuff like this, and you know, they're legal forest, you know, legal hunters and stuff like this. So yes, it's a touchy subject, but I'm definitely not for. I'm more for plantation and stuff like this, and you know, and this is the direction my company will be heading anyway. We will be acquiring in the near future our own plantation. At the moment, we've got, you know, I'm reliant on my father-in-law's plantation and his distillery. But
that's in Bangladesh.
Yeah, that's in Bangladesh, and they've got one in India as well. Okay. But you know, I intend to have my own. So you know, yeah. But at the moment, I'm using theirs. So yeah.
I wish you luck with our venture, brother.
Thank you.
And I think, I mean, I've come to the end of my capabilities. I'm not a natural in front of the camera person. That's why I don't do a YouTube channel.
You've done really well.
Thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to tell our fans and followers before we wrap it up and hand it back over to Nadeem?
No, I think look, just come on to Udict and you know, check out some of the vendors, check out all the topics that are on there. Yeah. You know, check out, you know, find out more about Argylwood and, you know, and try some of our woods, you know. You won't regret it.
Udict, for those who don't know, is a forum, an online forum for oud lovers, oud vendors, people who want to know more, who want to know where to buy things, and it's well worth checking out, as is Oud Base. Brother Rahel, I've just been talking to from Oud Base. So give him a follow on Instagram. He does really good quality content, very informative. And if you are so inclined, go and check out his oils that he produces. Samples are available, I believe, yes?
Yes, but not for all of them, but yes, for some of the oils that we sell, yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Rahel, and all the best. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, Marcus. It was great talking to you.
You too, brother. Take care.
And next time you come to the Oud Fest, hopefully the COVID isn't around, and I'll get to actually, shake your hands and give you a hug and introduce you to.
Well, listen, we're going to confiscate your passport 3 months before, so you don't go off anywhere.
It was great chatting to you, Marcus. Wa alaikum salam.
Rahel,
yeah,
we'll stay on for a few minutes in the background, because I don't want to interrupt the stream that I've got from Zoom, so we'll lose our audience, because I want to wrap up.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing your story and telling us about the company. It's definitely interesting to hear. Everyone who's been on, I know there's been about 20, 21, 22 people constantly on all day. Obviously you've got nothing better to do than to watch old men sniff scents all day. But no, it's really.
You got sense. You got sense.
Oh, I just lost one person. Okay, sorry. But no, just joking aside, it's really nice to see that there are people who are very committed to Udict and to Oud. What is the link to Udict? www.udict.com. We have actually got another. We are transitioning in terms of identity. So we have another URL, www.artisanoud.com. It goes to the same place. So yeah, that's the URL, udict.com. Right, so competition time. I'm going to check my inbox on udict.com. I think there's some people asking me for the URL for Udict, so I think it's only fair to give them a chance to be able to answer the question. So just to recap, the question for the competition was how many pots and what type of pots do Al Hashmi have and Oud Base have? Now, the type of pots isn't critical as long as you get the number right. For Al Hashmi and Oud Base, that will be sufficient. So how many pots do Al Hashmi have, and how many pots do Oud Base have? Answers are private message to me on Udict, and I will pick someone out of the hat. Someone says watching people sniff Ouds is better than getting COVID-19. Yeah, totally agree. There's quite a few things better than getting COVID-19. Let me see what we've got. What goodies we've got. 1 second, I'll be back. Oh yeah, actually there's something else as well. I wanted to plug in Ed from Olfactory. He's been very, very supportive in 1 second.
By the way, did the Kinam come through?
Which Kinam?
The one Ed was supposed to send.
Well, that's exactly. Thank you for ruining my surprise. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to mute you because, which I can do by the way, because I'm in control of the meeting. So yeah, this is going to be sent out to a lucky person. I don't know if the camera is showing it obviously in a mirror image. If it is, then apologies. But it basically says Olfactory cultivated Kinam 2020 sinking. Okay, so this is one of the things that I'll be shipping out. It's full of sinking cultivated Kinam. right? That's one of the competition prizes. And then we've got handfuls of samples as well. Handfuls of ouds from various vendors. Yeah. So there'll be a pack basically, and brought in a box like this.
Nice.
Answers to myself. I'll write my username. So username is Udict, and I'm on Udict. I'll pick out someone random. It will be random, honestly. I'm a fair person. I'm not going to pick anyone who's my mate or anything like that. Anyone who's associated with the vendors or anyone who's a vendor cannot take part for obvious reasons. Forum staff cannot take part. Sorry, Tasik. And you won the last competition anyway. So yeah, that's really it. So look, I want to thank everyone. Everyone who's here, everyone who's not here, who's taken part in today's Oud Fest. I want to just give a reminder that we are going to be uploading footage from the Atlanta Oud Fest, which went very well according to JK from Rising Phoenix. That Oud Fest was in person with a good turnout. So he was brave enough to take the risk to do that. Over here, we decided not to. But next year, we do have Oud Fests in person. We've been doing them since 2018. We've had them in Las Vegas, in London on 2 or 3 occasions. And we will be having one next year in person. Regarding this particular format, we'll be doing it a lot more often. So, keep a lookout for the next one in a few months' time. And I wish you all, the best, and keep safe. And hopefully we'll see each other on the platform, on the forum. And this channel, by the way, we'll be releasing a lot more content. It's a new channel. We've just started it last week. We've already got 50 plus subscribers. And I think, it's going to become a platform. It's not going to be a channel for people, just for myself or for Rahel or anyone else. But myself and Rahel will be running the channel. But it will be a channel for several vendors, hopefully several influencers who will want to come and take part as they did today. And it will be like a huge house or an umbrella channel for everyone, just like Udict is, in the same vein as Udict. And one of the things that I was really happy to hear, and that, to me, I took it as a sign that I'm doing something right, and we're doing something right at the forum, is the reaction from Marcus and from Matt, saying that they felt camaraderie and a real sense of festival here, and that's what we're trying to achieve. I felt it, to be honest with you, I felt really, really happy. After the initial hiccups, I felt that everything went really well, and I felt that the ethos and the warmth and the community, which is exactly what this is. It's a community of people. That vibe came through, even though we were online, and I really felt that today. So I appreciate the time that everyone spent online today, and we'll meet again soon. So take care, and thank you very much for attending today's Oud Fest.
Thank you, everyone.